Welcome to the Metal Prognosis. My name is Lee, and on today's video we're going to be looking at a virtual instrument, or a VST, to do some digital reamping called the Grind Machine by Audio Assault. Now they've done a bunch of things now, but this is kind of like I don't know if they're original, but definitely one of their first ones they started off with. So I just recently purchased a couple of their other stuff, so I thought it would be cool to go through all the different ones and see how it's evolved, see how it's changed, and see how differently we can utilize things in the studio when recording either from home or just approaching it differently to get different results. So I've got this session set up there, which just has dry guitars. So I just put the guitar straight through my mixing console, and that is it. There is no other pedals, nothing else to alter the sound whatsoever. So we're getting extremely raw and dry sounds, which is going to sound very empty and dull. We're going to add the grind machine to it and run through it together to see what different combinations we can make and different sounds we can come up with. And then we'll have a chat about it afterwards. So let me reset up the camera, start recording that screen so I can share it with you all, and let's go through and see how good this grind machine can actually sound and what we can actually do with it. Now I have everything set up ready to go. Let me give you a quick tour on what is actually going on here. So we got, I just got a song that I recorded, which is shown up plenty of times in my videos. So this is the drums from the actual album recording. I just mixed them down as audio. So that's the mix ready version I had from there because I felt it's just easier extracting it that way. I've got some bass running. It's got a bit of grunt to it, a bit of bite, which I always like in my bass. And the most interesting part, yet at the moment the most boring part, is the guitars. This is the honest truth of what naked guitars sound like before we put any effects or anything through them. So let's now spruce them up and do what we need to do for them. So I've got it split into left and right. So for this, the first thing that we're going to do is put that in the center. So while we're actually hearing it and mucking it around, we can hear it at its fullest and not at half. We mute the right one because we're not going to need that for now. And let's get this grind machine happening. So I got grind machine 1, or not 1, but the original 2, and Hell Beast is one of the Audio Assault ones as well. But for this one, we are looking at grind machine 1. So very firstly, let's solo it. Let's just hear how it sounds before I actually touch anything. So before pretty much the default setting that starts comes up there. Yeah, because what I do remember and recall from this is it does push a little bit, so you always got to make sure you got the gate happening somewhat, just a little bit. Don't have to go too far, just a little bit, because when we first played it, there's a little bit too much hiss coming through there. So that cleaned it up really quickly and really easily. So let me give you a quick tour of this grind machine from what I understand from it. Now, there's a fair bit going on, but let's break it up into the 4 major sections that the point of interest that we're looking at for this. So the first one is, which we already did, the gate. Having a noise gate there, as you heard, it cleaned it up pretty nicely. As we keep changing and shifting through different settings here, we might need to alter it a little bit, but we'll face that if it happens. Next thing is the amp head. We've got the amp head here. The third thing is the speakers. And the last thing is it comes with its own gent box, which is like a distortion pedal. So if you need to do a little bit of gain staging and build on the amp distortion there to make it more thicker and more fuller, a little bit more customized to what you want, you've got the ability to do that. So let's go back to here. So let's quickly sift through. So in the amp settings itself, there's heaps of different settings there you can muck around with to really mold what you desire, for lack of a better term. But let's just go through some of the presets, just because I don't want to be here. I don't think there are any presets, are there? No, not presets. I don't know what to call it. Different options you can have before you delve in deep. So starting points, because there are multiple different amps and speakers you can sift through. So let's just sift through them. I think this one stood out the most just because it just did. Sometimes you can't explain why it is, it just feels the best. But this is only as a starting point. So let's just use this as a starting point anyway. And let's see how much we can alter it. So that is just the amp head. So now let's look at the different cabinets they have. So if we just run through again. It's really hard to say which one I want to go for because there are so many. They're all really different and have really good individual qualities and characteristics. So I just got to pick one for the video, really. Let's just go with that. As you can see, you can mix and match and really try to find something in depth, but I could be here forever. Which, as I said in previous videos, I'm happy to do if people are willing to watch it, because, yeah, I can definitely sit here for a long time. Now, let's just fix up this gate a little bit now that we've picked this combination. So what I want to do is push it to the max and then roll it back and find that nice little sweet spot that we want for it. Because that is clearly way too much. So just take a little bit away from that squeal, so I might roll it back just a little bit. Let's test that out. That's a bit better. All right, let's try to clean it up a little bit more. let's try a bit of distortion here on that gent box. It's sounding good with that, having that extra. It's not. It does work as a boost, but it doesn't work, as a boost as in a traditional sense, because we are adding a lot more gain there as well. And that's me. That's just with me turning it on and off. I actually haven't even dealt with any of the knobs or anything. So let's go into the right here and add this and bring this back into the picture. So pan that back to left. So now I've got it running in stereo, and it's going to sound a bit crap because we've got the default setting and the new preferred setting. So you can tell that the left speaker is definitely pushing out a lot harder, because with the settings that we changed here, we actually are pushing it harder. So there's plenty of different arguments you can have of what we should do with the second guitar. Should you give it a whole different type of flavor and characteristics to really differentiate between the two different guitarists, as if you're simulating two different guitarists actually playing? Or are you just creating a more spatial dynamic aspect of one guitar section being just larger and bigger? In this case, that's what we're going to go for. We're going to make it sound more like one guitar being larger and bigger, because they're playing very little difference between the both. And when they do play both, we really wanted to impact it like it is one guitarist playing it, rather than two different individuals doing their thing. Just like so many other bands do, like Metallica, Megadeth. You listen to the rhythm sections, and as much as they have two guitarists, and they've always had multiple guitarists, but their recordings sound like one actual guitarist playing it, even though they've got God knows how many guitars actually running. And I can actually talk and do this. I don't need to wait for one to do the other. So we go there, go serpent. There we go. Turn that on. And we roll back a little bit on the gain there, it looks like. Roll back on the bass. I'm just doing this totally rough, because if you were to do this a little bit more finer, you would. I mean, you could digitally do it where you just get the numbers and duplicate them. But we're doing this quicker so we can hear it, because this is an example video, not an actual recording. So let's sort these around, actually, because that should be left, that should be right. And now let's hear how the guitars sound. Hopefully good. Oh, got to put some gate on the right though, otherwise that's going to be a bit not good. I really like the sound of those held chords there. They're really full, and they've got a lot of depth to them, and a lot of warmth, which I really like. So that is the grind machine there. But like all mixing things, you got to hear it in the mix. So just for shits and giggles, what I would normally do if this was a under a more serious umbrella, what I would do next was, if let's say those guitars were absolute perfect to what I was after, on the path to what I was after, next thing I would do is I'd solo the bass in it and just hear those two relationships together. Yeah, so they're all working together, but the bass still has enough of its own identity there that's sitting there, which is lovely. Now, as you can see, this is rushed and is full on because I should, in a working environment, I would be going backwards and forwards a little bit more, adding more bottom end to the bass and more dynamics, and really seeing if I can make the guitars a little bit more punchier to really have them spike a bit more. So let's bring in, the drums are back now. So let's hear it all together. And yeah, take it from there. So that is sounding pretty good, which is what you want. So I might leave it there. I mean, I could. Oh, look, let's just do it quickly because it's not going to take long. Let's just say we changed speakers to, I don't know, industrial without changing anything else. I'll bring on industrial both. Here's an example of what that end riff sounds like. Where's that end riff start? Roughly there. And even if we wanted to change it to something else, like just can't remember what the other standout ones were. Let's go high tech because I don't know what the hell it is. High tech. Let's hear how that one sounds. So, you know, you can arguably go through nasty. It's keen to hear how these all sound compared to each other now. Thrasher. And you could do the exact same thing with the amp heads if you wanted to go to. So I don't actually know what a lot of these are. Like that one is a Mesa Boogie rectifier. So let's just go to that one. That's it. Oh, wrong one. Back to Thrasher. We bring on that. yeah, so just within these programs, there's heaps you can do. But I will quickly touch base on this before we move on to some final thoughts about it all. Where if you didn't like the boost that this pedal gives you, for example, what you can do is you can go here and add your own type of boost if you want it instead of that one. And then have a whole, so that's the left. Let's just listen to the left one. Now that I've done this, now we're here. Wrong one. What wasn't working? I was like, that doesn't sound different. Let's try it again with the one I actually did it on. Whoa. That's still on. We've got double the boost. That's why it sounded a bit rubbish. Try again. So if you didn't like that boost that they've got, it's really easy to add that on there. Same with the cabinets. You have the option to turn the cabinets off here, which by themselves sound crap. But then you can go through and load up something like NAD IR and add your own cabs in here. All right, that's super quiet, but hopefully you get the idea of the different options you have and how easy it is to flow through each of them and to do whatever needs to be done. So let's go on to my final thoughts now, because I think I've expressed enough here and explained enough just in the studio for this video. Time for some final thoughts on the Grind Machine plugin by Audio Assault. So firstly, it's super easy to use. You saw how simple it was just to bring it up and already you get decent sound. I did a little tail bit on the end though, just to help run through my thoughts here, which is if there are any different elements that you kind of don't like for whatever reason or aren't quite working, it's really easy in a VST or a virtual instrument situation like that, when we've got it stuck in there, to just add different things around it to help clean it up. So if the noise gate wasn't working well enough for your liking, then you could put other type of noise gates in there as well. If the EQ spectrum that the amp offers isn't quite enough, you can just do your own EQing either before or after. Just like I did with the boost pedal. If that gent pedal that they had there wasn't quite working for you, if you need a more thrashier sound or something a little bit more saturated or something just different, anything different characteristic wise, you can put something either digitally or even analog before it. If you have a boost pedal, I wish I had one in reach right now as an example, but if you had some boost pedal, let's say like the Savage Drive, you can absolutely plug that through there beforehand and then have the digital amp do the rest of it. So you can even pre-shape your sound with that too to add different combinations. And that's what I love about today's different studio options you do have as recording as a guitarist or an engineer or producer. The different combinations of working with, if you want to do stuff 100% digitally, just what I call in the box, as in the computer, or not really 100% analog, because that's, let's forget those days. I think that's romanticized way too much, because when I learned sound engineering, it was reel to reel, and it was an absolute nightmare. And it took so much time and energy and effort, and it took a lot away from the actual performing, because you're too busy mucking around with the equipment, making sure it's clean, making sure it's lined up, make sure it's all in sync, make sure they're all talking to each other. It was extremely time consuming compared to what we can achieve now. Kind of it's hard to really balance on which one would be better and which one would be worse, because as we saw with the Grind Machine, just bringing it back on subject, how easily we go through all the different amp heads and different speakers. Is that option overload though? Are we going to get analysis paralysis with it all, trying to figure out the best combination between all those things? And as I said near the end, if you don't like any of the speaker sounds, you can add your own. And when you start adding your own, that's huge. That's a endless list of different speaker and mic combinations you can add to your sound, whether people are doing it as examples and giving it away for free, ones you can actually purchase, or ones you can even make yourself. It's still a huge, huge pool to choose from. Is that actually too much though? That's definitely a really good thinking and talking point. But with the grind machine, compared to doing the analog, I should say, going back to that part of the conversation, I prefer to have the digital overload compared to the analog. I don't want to really say simplicity. It is simplicity in regards to its setup. It wasn't simple in its execution. So definitely give me the digital new age over the old reel-to-reel and mucking around, because yeah, it was a headache. It was a real headache. And all the other engineers I've worked with too, since and past then, have all said the exact same thing, that we are extremely happy to say goodbye to that and set up more efficient studios for cheaper. And we'll be able to get a hell of a lot more done and get better results, because working with digital sound is a lot easier to control and to manipulate and to get a cleaner signal compared to analog. Because analog, you have to clean up a bucket load. And as soon as you start doing, there's a certain point, a tipping point, where as soon as you do too much cleaning, you actually end up altering and modifying the sound way too much. And then you've got to find that balance. How much grit do you want to take out of the guitar between how much cleanness you want out of your overall signal? And same with drums, and same with vocals, and whatever other instruments you got running through there as well. And that's not a good dilemma to be in. You don't want to be in that situation. And that's where digital's come in really well, because it cleaned up and fixed up all those. They're still there slightly, but nowhere near as much as compared to when it was 100% all analog. So I'm very grateful for the fact that we've now moved more towards this way. So with the grind machine, same deal. The amount of options you have and the easiness of it as well. And I spoke about this in other videos too, but it's so convenient to be able to see. I can't really see it. I got a sore finger, so I couldn't actually play guitar. So I just pulled up old recordings that I did, dry ones, because I knew I had those dry ones sitting there for a rainy day like today, where I could just use it digitally to figure out what was going on. Now let's change that situation a little bit more, and let's say I was an engineer, and instead of having a sore finger, I couldn't actually play myself as a musician. The musician just did their takes the previous day. Now I can take the next day on without anyone else being in the studio, or having other people in the studio, or however you want to set it up. But just having the fact that you don't have to have the muso replay their parts continuously, trying to find that perfect sound that you're going for whatever project it might be. It's just made life a lot quicker and easier, and to get actually better results. The hardest thing is picking one and sticking with it, which I think I had a trouble with today too, because it's lots of fun just going through them all and seeing the different combinations and the different sounds. But there is a point, just like in recording sessions, just like with anything, where you just got to put your foot down and go, this is it. Not this will do. I did this will do for this video, because it's like I've got to get through it and actually finish it. But there is a point where it's like, this is it. This is the sound that's going to really work for it. So yeah, might have to do another video on actually recording ethics and different ways on how to approach it, and old stories about what I've stumbled into and what I've learned in the past compared to how I try to think now and moving forward, and even areas I still need to work on, because yeah, in this industry it's ever growing and you're ever learning and everything is ever changing. But I have noticed it's changed for the absolute best, and it keeps getting better and better. So I'm going to definitely touch base on the Grind Machine 2 and their Hellbeast plugins that they've got as well, to see the difference and compare them and just see how they work. So whether you're watching this in the future of when I post this, or whenever it might be, I can't think of another describe it, where you can actually watch all 3 in a row or just wait for them to be released once they've actually recorded them done. And you can see yourself the difference between them and how the company's grown and where they've taken the angle from it as well. Because I hardly touched the other ones. I just brought them up this morning to see if they work, to make sure, because one of them I need to put in the license key, so I wanted to do that off screen, because that's just boring admin stuff and that's not worth you don't need to see that at all. So thank you very much for joining me in this video, and I look forward to doing more videos on this, on the audio assault stuff as well, because it's really cool. Never spoke to them before, not endorsed, not sponsored. I saw this stuff for sale for cheap and I thought I'd give it a crack, and it's been a wonderful journey so far. So thank you very much for being a part of it. Hopefully you enjoyed something, gotten something out of it, and I thoroughly look forward to chatting with you again next time in one of my other videos, whether it's ones I've done in the past or ones that I'm about to bring out in the future. And until next time, please stay safe.